Thank you everyone for coming. Today we are having some spring wood burning, and you might see behind me, I have this cute little moss basket that's available at Michael's, and then I put a little gift tag that says my name. So that's my Easter basket. If you want to put treats into it, just, throw them over this way. Felicia and I are in Texas, and we are coming to you live today with some wood burning tips and tricks. And I'm mostly going to focus on wood burning on some wood eggs. I will show you a couple other different surfaces. So if you have any wooden surfaces and if you have a wood burning tool, go ahead and turn it on. There is an on switch on your wood burning tool and let it start heating up. Let's go ahead and switch over to my other camera and I'll show you what I've got going on for you. So on this other side, you'll see my wood burning tool at the bottom of the screen. It's heating up. It has this nice little holder. I have a piece of tape so that it doesn't move. One of the things you need to be careful about is with this cord, if it kind of drags off of a table, and you do not want that hot metal to drag off the table and get you. So if you haven't already, go ahead and switch your wood burning tool to the on position. So there's an on and an off, make sure it's on. It usually only takes about 1 to 2 minutes to start warming up. So we'll have plenty of time for it to get warmed up. I also want to point out some of the different tips that are available. And I have these tips currently in a ceramic bowl. Now I haven't used these yet, so they're not hot. But once I do use them in the tool, then I'll put them back into the ceramic cup so that I'm not going to burn any of my surfaces or do anything silly like that. But the wood burning tool that I suggested for this class is from Walnut Hollow, and it comes with 3 really cool tips. So the tip that I often use the most is the flow point, and the flow point looks kind of almost like a bullet shape. It has a really nice round end to it. It's very good for going over lots of different wood surfaces. The other tips that I have are what we call the shading point, and it looks like kind of like a little leaf or a little petal. And you can actually kind of use it almost like a brand and make a lot of space, a lot of coverage shaded using that tool. This is called the universal point, and the universal point looks a lot like a calligraphy point. So you can use it on that wide edge and do very long, bold strokes, or you can twist it and do it on that thin edge to make very, very precise kind of drawings. And then we also have what's called a cone point, and the cone point is kind of like a fine point pencil. So if we need to do some small detail, we can use that cone point. So I will mostly be using this flow point, but if I do tend to change tips, and if I want to show you a couple of other things, I'm going to be using a pair of pliers in order to twist out the tip, put it into my ceramic bowl, twist in a new tip, and keep going. Now you might have already seen too that I was hiding another kind of fun tool that's also available. There's something called Walnut Hollow hot marks that are like little stamps. So they really are like little brands. And so you can twist these into this hot tool as well in order to get the stamping feel that you might have seen on my basket at the very beginning. I'm going to take this bow off so I can show you the little tag. So this is using those and wood burning, kind of like stamping onto these cute little plywood tags. And then you can use a little bow and go through there and kind of tie it onto an Easter basket. So that's a fun thing to use. We have lots of different eggs at Michael's. We have different sizes of these wooden eggs. We have different bundles of the eggs. Some come in mixed sizes. Some come all the same sizes. You and I both know that eggs are expensive right now. So maybe you need to change up your tradition a little. Maybe you need a different tradition rather than dyeing eggs. Maybe you need to paint some eggs instead of dyeing real eggs. Maybe you need to play around with some wood eggs. I think a dozen of these wood eggs might actually be cheaper right now. So keep that in mind. But yeah, let me just show off a couple of the designs. These are just things that I kind of was messing with. I love this little chick and I love his little furry hair. And then on the other side of this, I made like a little Easter basket with some cute little eggs. Now, this one I want to show you is kind of exciting. So when we start wood burning in just a moment here, if you find it hard to create your own designs on the eggs, because the eggs are, round, and so they're going to move around on you, they're going to be a little challenging to hold and wood burn on at the same time. This is another package of wood eggs at Michael's that comes with these decorations already stamped on them. So this is like a cheat code where if you're struggling making the design yourself, it already has a little bit of a wooden groove. You can just take your wood burning tool and go in there. I'm going to show you because I think my wood burning tool is nice and hot. You can just go through the grooves that they already provide. And hello, you can cheat code your way to a really nice, beautiful wood burned egg. And then if you want to decorate that, or if you want to paint that, you're welcome to add some different paints. So this is that original wood egg. Before I wood burned or did anything, I just added some acrylic paint to it. But you can imagine that I could also wood burn it and then go ahead and add some color to it, similar to the way that I did this one. So this is just wood burned to make a little pattern. And then I went back with some Posca paint markers and painted in some cool designs. So let's talk about wood burning basics. Now that everything is nice and hot and ready to go, I'm going to take a little piece of scrap plywood that I'm going to draw some marks on just to kind of show you how to use the tool in case you've never used it before. So again, I have my ceramic dish, I have my pliers in case I need to change the tips, and I have a couple little plywood pieces, surfaces to kind of play with. So the first thing I want you to do when you're holding your wood burning tool is obviously make sure that you're holding it on the green part on back, because everything ahead of the green part is metal and is definitely conducting a lot of heat and is definitely going to burn you. You'll also notice how I'm holding it kind of like how you hold a pencil. But because it is attached to a cord, you might want to use your other hand to give yourself extra space with your cord so that your cord isn't working against you when you're trying to draw. And the first thing I'd have you do, if any of you are playing along with me right now, is to go ahead and make some various dots. So just hold your wood burning tool down towards your surface, and you might see a little smoke. I'm seeing a little smoke on my end, and that's perfectly normal. I have a fan running because I'm indoors, but usually I like to wood burn on my back patio because it's just more fun, a little rustic. So you can tell that I was able to just burn through this piece nicely, get a nice cool color. And then if I leave it down for less amount of time, you can see that I can get a variation of dots. So the different amounts of pressure and the different amounts of time that you hold your wood burning tool towards the wood is obviously going to vary with the color and the size of the dots that you're able to create. Once you feel pretty good about making some various dots, I want you to try and do a straight line. So when you do a straight line, it's going to be very slow and steady. And the name of the game is going to be consistency. So you want to do consistency with how you're dragging it across. And you also want to do consistency in terms of don't have any pauses or hesitations and the same amount of pressure. So here goes. So I didn't rush through that. I did a very slow and steady burn to try and keep it as even and as straight as I can. Now watch for a moment if you watch me do it too quickly. So what happened with the second burn is that when I moved so quickly, it didn't have very much time. So that's why I get a very light burn in the middle. And also you can tell that I had some hesitation. So if you hesitate, if you hold it in one place for too long, you're going to get some of these dots. So you want to do a nice slow and steady. And with your tool nice and hot, it's going to be like pulling a hot knife through butter. It's a really nice feeling. It's a really nice sensation, and it has a really nice kind of campfire smell to it. So if you do tend to have some differences in textures and thicknesses, that's something that you can always go back to and kind of work next to it or around it to try and match it up. So if your line was a little bit darker, go ahead and make the whole entire line a little bit darker to kind of make up for that and to kind of figure that out. So you might also want to do a little bit of shading, and there is the shading tool, and I can show you that in a moment. But you can also do shading by what we call doing stippling. And stippling is a whole bunch of dots and putting more and more dense dotting to kind of give you some shading and to kind of give you some different texture. So you can use some stippling in order to fill in some of the blanks in between. You could also use the shading point. So let's go ahead and try that. So there's a question that says, have you ever used a metal template to print letters? A pre-lettered template? I have not. I've not even heard of that. So that sounds very cool, something I want to look into. I'm going to take my pliers, any pliers, as long as they have something to protect your hands on the bottom. And while this is still plugged in and hot, I'm going to go ahead and untwist this. Yes, Adrienne Hodge is a really great fine arts teacher that we have at Michael's, and she definitely teaches a lot of stippling and some drawing techniques. All right, so I just took that out by twisting it. Now this one isn't hot yet, but I am going to go ahead and use the pliers anyway. And I'm going to twist the opposite direction. So you might see my left hand twisting around the tool in order to get that. So there's a question that says, can you use a wood ruler with a steel strip to create straight lines? Absolutely, you can. I would definitely not use a plastic ruler, but I know you already know that. All right, so now I have my shading tool, and it really doesn't take very long for that to get conducted and that metal piece to get just as hot as the rest of it. But I'm going to show you a little bit of the shading tool in between these two lines. So first, just by kind of rolling it, you can see that petal shape. But I'm able to kind of layer this. You can also kind of drag the shading tool along slowly the way you would with your other tools. So you can get variations in the amount of shading that you're doing instead of just stamping it, which stamping it is kind of like stippling but with a much larger dot or shape. You could also just kind of drag this and get a lighter burn and a more even kind of smoky feel to it. And you can fill in the space using that. Another technique is something called cross hatching. So in my Easter basket, rather than try and burn this whole entire basket, I broke this into like a little, what do you call it, checkerboard. And these checkerboards, I did lines going vertically, then lines going horizontally, then lines going vertically, and kept changing directions like that. So that's a lot like doing cross hatching and hatching in order to get you some more of that texture too. So that's another way to kind of fill up your egg with some of the darker marks if that's what you're going for. I'm going to switch my tip, and while we're on a roll, I'm going to show you a little bit of that stamping with the letters in case you're interested in that. So they are going to attach in the same way that all of these tips I'm already talking about work. So I'm twisting my tool in order to undo the shading point. And then I have a bunch of my letters over here. I haven't used them yet, so they're not hot, which is why I'm able to touch them. Here's the letter M. It does get hot quickly, so I usually only have one twist with my hands before I need to switch to my pliers. But it's nice that they get hot quickly because I don't have to wait very long once it's on in order for me to do my stamping. So if you have some little tags, or maybe if you have a coaster or something, if you want to do a place setting with somebody's name for a holiday dinner coming up, you can do that. We have several different Jewish holidays coming up. We have several different Christian holidays, and we're in the month of Ramadan. So we have lots of different holidays for lots of different traditions right now. I'm going to take this letter M, and I'm just going to hold it down and burn that in. And that makes for a really nice, cool font. I'm going to take this hot piece and I'm going to put it into my ceramic cup, twisting my tool. And then I'm going to find my letter E. There it is. And I'll be safe and use my pliers. Twisting the letter E in. No. Making sure that I have it in the right direction. That was kind of a light burn. There we go. And one more. And someone had mentioned a ruler before. So if I wanted to make sure that all of my lines were nice and straight, right here, I could have penciled in a straight line for myself before I started doing the burning. You can also measure out the letters. I personally like a good rustic homemade look, like, hey, a computer did not print this for you, a Megan did. So I like showing off a few of my little handmade errors because it reminds people that I'm not a robot. I am a human being hand printing something cool for you. Get this twisted in and do one last letter. Yep. Make sure that it's the right way. And we're good. Ooh. I have a letter A. So this is going to be for Mia, an imaginary person that I do not know yet. Or I could spell a really funky Megan with an M-E-A-G. So that is how those stamps work. And I think those are fun. I think I saw a couple of questions come into the chat. So let me see. Alicia's reminding everyone. And yes, you can go to our YouTube channel and see any of these classes. And usually the classes are up within 24 hours. We are ready to take out the stamping tools, and I'm going to put my flow point back in, and I am getting ready to start doing some eggs. Challenging myself with these eggs. So I'm putting this tip back in and twisting that into my tool. And you've probably noticed already that it doesn't take much for this to get hot enough to keep going. So just by twisting these tips in and waiting just a couple seconds, I mean, to be safe, you could wait even longer, but it doesn't take long for it to get nice and hot. And you can always test out on any of your scrap to know when your tool is nice and hot and going to give you a really nice burn. So I know that I'm ready to go again because I have a really nice burn going on. Okay. I'm going to start with one of the larger eggs. And I don't really have a plan for this one. I'm just going to kind of go with it. What I think I'm going to do is probably something like this where I'm going to make several different sections of like stripes and dots and things like that that I can go back in with my paint pens and color it in. But you might have seen before I had this cute little chick that was pretty easy for me to draw following some of those lines of the egg itself. And then you might have also seen my cute little bunny, and this was just kind of like a little oval shape. So if you have some ideas of some different things you want to see me, if you want to see me do the basket or the chick or the bunny specifically, I'm happy to do those. I'm going to start this one with decorations, and let me know in the chat if you want to see one of those specifically, and I'll be happy to step those out for you as well. All right, I'm going to drag a line pretty much through the center, slow and steady. Now the wooden egg I'm working on is a much more solid wood than the plywood I was practicing on. So you want to kind of get a handle for the type of wood you're using. You should never use a wood that's already treated or that has any kind of paint on it or sealant on it already, because by activating that with heat, you're going to release some toxins that we don't want to breathe in. So don't wood burn onto surfaces that are already finished in any way. You definitely want to look for an unfinished surface. And you know, Michael's is just the place for some unfinished surfaces. Seems like every season we have some really cool new wooden surfaces that come out that you can either paint on or wood burn on or do all sorts of crafts with. So keep that in mind. And I made it all the way around this first line. I'm going to do another line a little bit above it. And I'm mostly turning the egg and keeping my tool in the same place. But if you find that moving your tool and keeping your egg steady works better for you, you should try that too. I'm very curious to know if anyone is going to play along today. If anybody has one of these wood burning tools, it's a pretty inexpensive hobby to get into. This tool with all of these different this tool with all of these different tips is only about $16, and you can do lots of different things on lots of different surfaces with that. Someone was impressed with how my lines ended up meeting up with each other. We'll see if it can happen again. It's definitely what I'm trying for, but I mean, pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. And let's see, maybe I'll try a zigzag. Yay, we have someone that has a wood burning tool and they're following along and playing. I love that. Feel free at any point if you want to share any pictures in the chat, or if you want to turn a camera on and show us what you're doing. We're happy to see. Show and tell is always encouraged. And of course, we have the Learn with Michaels Instagram. If you tag us at Learn with Michaels, then we can repost your pictures and share them with everybody. It's like a giant community refrigerator for things that you're proud of, so that we can all tell you how amazing you are. So keep that in mind. So someone is saying, they are saying that they are terrible at drawing. Now, I am not the best artist in terms of drawing either, but what's nice about wood burning is that if you can trace, you can wood burn. So you do not have to be someone who can draw in order to be really good at wood burning. You can be someone who can trace a coloring book design or trace another kind of design that you find somewhere. And here's what your best friend's going to be. I'm going to take a moment, Margaret, not to single you out. I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to show you. So I'm going to put my little wood burning tool off to the side so I don't get that in the way. But let's pretend that you are someone who thinks that they are bad at drawing. First of all, you're not. But second of all, I'm going to take a little bit of graphite paper. So this is paper that we suggested for you in the supplies. And what's perfect about this paper is that there's a shiny side and there's a duller side. If you take the shiny side and face it down, and then take some kind of design, you can print one off. This happens to be a design that I used last week for my punch needle class. And so you could have a mushroom, you could have a little bear. This punch needle class with these designs is already available on Learn with Michael, so you can do it. And then you're going to go through with your graphite paper, and you're just going to trace over the lines that I drew in the design. And by using this graphite paper, you're going to have a perfect transfer that will be ready for you and your wood burning tool to make this adorable little bear. And this little bear I'm putting in this hexagon, I usually find these little wood surfaces towards the register at my particular Michaels. And they're usually pretty cheap right there at the register. They have this cute little zigzag to hang on a wall, or they have the string in order to hang on the wall. And then when I take this off, oh my goodness, I have a teddy bear that is ready to wood burn. And so I did not have to draw a picture. I just had to trace. And then I can take my wood burning tool and I can follow the line and I can wood burn this bear into this plaque. So I fully believe that this is a craft for everyone. So please feel free to try. Feel free to test some things out. Let your creativity go wild. Now, what's trickier about the eggs is that it's hard to put graphite paper on the eggs. So I am kind of making up these designs as I go on the egg, just because the surface is wonky. But if you don't want a wonky surface, if you have something that's already flat, I have this Celtic design that's on a thicker piece of wood that makes for a really good coaster. we have these make market frames at Michael's that usually only cost about $1. And you can add some lines and designs onto these. So there's lots of different surfaces that are going to be perfect for this. And I really highly recommend. So someone's asking which tip to use, the round or the point, or does it matter? And mostly the answer is whatever you feel most comfortable with. I tend to use the flow point almost always, unless I'm really trying to do something very, very specific and I need the cone point, which is a little bit thinner. So keep that in mind. All right, I'm going to keep going on this one. So you might have seen that little crack is what I did when I was trying to make my little chick. I just made the crack a little bit more dramatic than the zigzag I just did. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and make another line underneath. And I think these stripes are going to help me add in some lots of fun colors. And I can show you how easy that part is too, when I have a couple of designs to fill in. Oh, someone says they have the mandala stencils. So yes, those stencils are usually a pretty lightweight plastic that you can bend too. So you could map out with a pencil where you want to draw your designs. You can map out anything you want to on these eggs with pencil too, and pencil will erase, sometimes even better than the graphite paper will. So I think that's a great idea too. And if you're working with some teenagers or some younger kids or something, and you're feeling okay with letting them try out the wood burning tool, it could be something like you, maybe you make the designs and they paint them, or you draw on some of the lines and then someone can go back and kind of try doing the wood burning over that. Yes, a Zentangle would be amazing. I love Zentangles. I kind of make my own style of it with these kinds of just putting lines in different directions and continuing over and over again. That's kind of my style. I'm going to do some lines that are going to go in the opposite direction. And you might be able to tell in my wooden egg, see some of those wooden lines already, some of the wood grain. I'm going to try and follow some of those to make some of the lines going in another direction. All right. And there's always Pinterest and the internet to give you all kinds of inspiration if you can't quite come up with some of these ideas on your own. But yeah, just try it out. You never know. You could be the next designer. And then we'll all want to copy you. I like the way that these lines are going in the other direction. It's pretty cool. And I think it's going to make for a really fun, like on this side, it'll look almost like a rainbow, and on this side, it'll look like stripes. So I'm just following that wood grain. And following that wood grain was how I ended up with the basket design and the egg design too, because I was just following along the line on the egg itself. And that's how I ended up with this egg. And that's how I ended up with this basket, following along those lines. All right. And let's see. I think I'm going to do another zigzag down here. And then I'm just about ready on this one. Ooh, someone suggested a rubber stamp. So using like a light design with a rubber stamp to mark over the wood, I like that idea too. And then just go back and do the wood burning. And what I mentioned at the very beginning too was these eggs that are already kind of pre-grooved. They already have these grooves in them, and they already have these nice flower shapes. So you can just take your wood burning tool and it'll slide through these grooves really nice and evenly and easily. And then you'll get the look and feel of wood burn without having to make up your own design yourself. So this is what it comes like. And then this is what it looks like after I added some of my own wood burn to it. So a little bit more rustic, a little bit cooler. All right, this egg is ready to be decorated. So I tend to love me some Posca markers, Posca paint pens. And so I'm going to pick out some of my favorite spring colors, something bright, something festive, something fun. Maybe these ones to get me started. And I'm going to pick some colors. And now I have like a giant coloring book for myself. So again, if you are working with younger kids, maybe you do the wood burning and then you give them the opportunity to do the coloring in. That might be a good way to include them, but keep them nice and safe. So here I go with a light blue. And if you're not adding other color, the question is, would you take a sealant? And it really depends on what I'm using these for. So if you're going to use these outside and you're going to hunt them and you're going to hide them, then yes, I recommend sealing them. If I do any kind of paint, then yes, I also probably want to go ahead and add some sealant. But if you are just doing them just for decoration, I don't think you need to add anything like that. If you do a wood burning design that you're going to use as a coaster, I also kind of recommend you can either do a Mod Podge over top of it just to kind of seal it, or one of the spray clear acrylic kind of sprays as well, help you seal that. And it not weatherproofs it, but it definitely keeps any moisture from damaging it, which obviously you're going to get some moisture because that's kind of the whole point of a coaster. And there is some waterproof Mod Podge. There's also dishwasher safe Mod Podge. Don't put wood in your dishwasher, but I'm just saying if it can make the material good enough to go through a dishwasher, it can definitely hold up as a coaster. So there's some different Mod Podge formulas that can definitely help you out with that too. Love it. Look at how bright that is. I love that. Add in some yellow. This is a very fun, relaxing hobby. Yep, we've done it all. I love these colors too. I'm currently using the 5mm Poscas, which are giving me really good coverage very quickly. But if you had a lot of teeny tiny detail, there are smaller, thinner Posca markers as well. That would be better for details. And I could keep going with that. And I probably will keep going with that after this class is over. And then if you want to check back on my personal Instagram, which is the number 4M Coleman, you can see the final result of my egg painting. You can see what that ends up looking like. I'm going to show you one more kind of style of egg. And this is an egg that might be like a name egg. So if you have an Easter egg hunt that you've ever been a part of, and maybe you have lots of cousins, lots of kids, lots of people who want to participate, and you need to kind of manage manage expectations about how many prizes they might be winning. Sometimes people have like name eggs where they have the person's name on it, so you can find your name egg. If it doesn't have your name on it, you need to not touch that one. I'm twisting this the wrong way. Maybe I'm not going to switch my point right now. I'm just going to go ahead and use this one. I think it's going to be all right. But I could switch to my cone tip, which was what I was about to do. I need to get a better grip on it with my pliers. So it will come back out easily. I just don't want to take the time to do it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and write a name on this one. And this is something that I could use pencil if I wanted to kind of trace it out and space it the way I want it to. Or you can freehand it the way I'm doing right now. And whenever I do my wood burning, I tend to do a first draft where I just kind of go through and make the letters. And then I'm going to go back through and kind of make it a little bit more even. So you see a couple of dots there and things that the thicknesses are a little different. I'm going to go back and try and make that pretty close to the same. And if you want to make your letters a little bolder, you can add a very close line next to the line you've already drawn to kind of thicken your letters. Or you can make your letters block letters on purpose that you can then go back and paint to make them colorful. Yeah. So you'll see that I made a little bit more thickness by adding another line next to it. And then I can go back in between and get that thickness. Love it. So this is my egg. So if you see this, leave it alone. It's my egg. I'm going to find it. Don't worry. And that's that. So let me see if I missed any questions or if there's anything else you would like to see. Did we say if we wanted to see any of the other particular shapes?
I think someone mentioned about the yep, she
The
just put it back
chick,
in there. The
the
chick.
chick and the egg. All right, we can do that. Thank you. All right, so this is what we're going for with our chick and the egg. And we are going to have, we're going to follow the lines of the egg to make kind of like this bottom part that's a shell. And then we're going to do the little head as well. So on my egg, you might be able to see, I don't know if you can on the camera or not, but it has some ovals, like it's kind of narrowing in and the ovals are getting smaller and smaller. So, or if I flip it over, you might be able to see it too, some of those different lines and grooves. So I'm going to pick one of those lines and I'm going to follow it. I'm going to go and do kind of like a U shape first, following that line, and it doesn't need to be perfect, because it is a broken egg after all. So that's me doing that U shape. And then for my broken shell, I'm going to do my zigzag at very different heights to kind of give me a good crack. There we go. And then I'm going to follow another inside line to kind of put the chick inside of it. So I can see a line hanging out for me right here. That fits nicely into that egg. And then when I did some of the little hairs, I really just kind of danced my tool around very briefly to get almost like some little baby hairs coming off of this little baby chick. Yeah. And then I'm going to add a little beak and add 2 little eyes. So for my beak, it's just going to be kind of like a diamond. So, and then you can make the eyes little dots. You can make the eyes closed. You can make them open. And I'm going to add a couple more little furry pieces for this guy. Cute little chick. I could go back and paint that too. A nice bright yellow could be fun. But there I have my little chick. Adorable. So yes, those grains of wood can really help you make some of those wooden shapes. So you can imagine when I did the basket, I just drawed along those wooden grooves as well, and then added in the lines. And like I told you with these, I made a checkerboard, and then I went vertical, horizontal through each one of those checkerboards to kind of give it like a basket weave. So I think we are coming to the end of our class. I'm so glad you were able to join us. I'm going to keep going and keep painting and keep finishing up some of the eggs that I started. So if you want to see some of my finished projects, you can go to 4M Coleman and check those out. Please share anything that you come up with in order to show us anything that you come up with too. I'd love to see what you're working on and tag us at Learn with Michaels. This is a cute little moss basket that we have. So you can put your eggs into the little moss basket. You can add your own. Oh my God, how cute. Yes, I'll have to do a photo shoot with my moss basket, and I'll have to have my little name tag and all my little prizes and my name egg into my basket. So next week coming up, we're going to do a class on moss and miniatures, where we're going to use some of these different things to make different scenes, perhaps for an Easter table or just for fun, for decoration. So come back next week and see that. Tomorrow, I'll be teaching one of my favorite classes because I'm a giant nerd, in case you don't already know that. But I'm going to be teaching a Pi Day class because tomorrow is March 14th. 3.14, which is pi. So we're going to be talking about circles. We're going to be doing some different designs, and we're going to be using some embroidery floss in order to create round designs and celebrate Pi Day. So come back again tomorrow, join me for Pi Day, and we can't wait to craft with you again. Bye, everyone.